We are live. Very cool. How are you?
I am great. My Wi-Fi is up. Woo!
Yay!
Ah, how's your week been?
Good. It's been really good. I had a great call on Friday,
Hmm.
and it kind of like added a new layer to my funnels. Talking about funnels. Um, I reached out to like a bunch of recruiters on LinkedIn because the people I deal with are always like, oh my recruiter, and they're always like talking about their recruiter. And so I wanted to like connect with some of these recruiters to understand what the heck is the process, like
Mm,
what happens here.
mm,
And so one of them got back to me. I reached out to like 12. One of them got back to me, and we had a phone call on Friday, and I used Otter to like I put her on speakerphone and I recorded the phone call so I'd have the transcript. Thank God. And within 5 minutes, I read the transcript yesterday, and within 5 minutes of the call, she assessed what I do. She said, "Oh, so you're helping people, like they're coming to you with their resumes, and you're like helping them get the jobs or like talk to the recruiters." She's like, "Well, you could like partner with recruiters." And then within 5 minutes, she's like, "But why aren't you just a recruitment firm? Because you have the one piece, you just like, all you need to do is then reach out to the job postings and say like,
mm-hmm,
oh, hey, because you make 10% of their salary." And it's like,
mm.
that's a much bigger paycheck than what I've been. So
Mm.
I thought about it all weekend, and she was like, she's so lovely, Rose. I just love her. She was like, this is what you need. She basically gave me every single step that I needed. She told me
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I had to have in the contract. She told me exactly what I should expect, exactly what my script should be to the companies, exactly how to reach them, like all the things. And she's like, and you have the upper hand because you already have the network. Like recruiters have to go out and find these people. Like people are coming to you. It's like that is true. That is
Mm.
true. And so I thought about it and then basically made a quick landing page, 2 landing pages, and synced up my Calendly so that I have now an assessment call. Because like recruiters, you have like an intake assessment where like they see if like you're going to be a good fit or whatever. So I made a landing page that was like, hey, here's what to expect, right? That after they book the appointment, it takes them to that. Then I also made a thank you landing page to say like, thank you for the follow-up email that gets sent to them after we have our assessment call that says like, I'll send you a DM with your score. I used me and ChatGPT came up with a 5x5 rubric that basically I can score them on. So on like 5 competencies, they can get a score from novice to proficient. I came up with like on Canva a secondary page that's like, here's your score and here's our feedback. So only scores that are 23 to 25 do I immediately go out looking for a job for them. Everything else is like, you need help, you need work, you need to look at this, like go like maybe look for senior designer, maybe look for junior designer. Um, there's coaching services. I have coaching services. So it's like it brings them into that. Uh, and so yeah, I got the assessment. I got that. I put out a poll on Friday just saying like, hey, like, is anyone actively looking for a UX job? And got like 90 people responded to it. And as of yesterday, like 100 and some odd people had responded to it. So everybody who responded yes, I basically messaged them a DM. The poll's not even done yet, but I messaged them a DM and I said, what does it say? It's like, I invite you to an assessment call as part of your recruitment process with the UX Vocab Club recruitment firm. Please select a time using my Calendly link. Here it is. My calendar blew up. I actually had to put a limit on how many of those I could have a day because next week, like every day, I have like 5 per day. I was like, oh my God.
Mm. Mm.
So I put a limit on 3 per day. So I can only have 3 of these assessment calls per day. I have 2 today. So I'm stoked. I love grading people. And it's like a whole other way in because it actually puts me in a spot of authority as opposed to like a spot of like, hey, like I can help you, da da da. Like they're actually coming in. I told them they have like, this is what they have to do. They have to present themselves. They have to show me a case study. They have to show me their portfolio. They have to do a whiteboard challenge and they have to answer 5 interview questions. And it's all being filmed. And I'm going to grade it just like you do at a typical interview, which I've done before professionally. And so based on that score, that's going to be the next step, right? And so it already puts me, just like she was saying, she's like, you have the upper hand. It's like, oh my God, I have the upper hand. This is so good. So I'm super excited about that because it's like a whole other way into like getting more people into my coaching funnel, but through this like other way that also has the potential to make like a lot of cash, but like isn't so far out of it. So I'm super stoked. I'm like super, super stoked. And my calendar is like, it's insane. I was like having a nap and then I just heard like ba-bing, ba-bing, ba-bing. What the hell is that noise? And I check and it's Calendly notifying me that all these people have like booked assessment calls. I was like, oh, okay, look at me, so fancy. And I drafted, so Rose was like, okay, like here's what you have to do for the contract with the companies. And she gave me, some tips. And then, so yesterday I drafted it up, the contract, just to like see and sent it to her. And she was like, it's perfect. You can start using this immediately. I was like, yeah. So that was cool because it like described who I was and like what I've been doing and like how I have this private network of like over 6,000 people and da 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 da. It was good. So I feel like it's like even like that next step. So thanks to you, it was super easy to like build my landing pages and do all that stuff because I have such a great design system on my site now. So it's like it takes me 2 seconds. Like I built a sales call one the other day. I built these ones. Literally, it took me 30 minutes to like get the whole automation lined up. It's like, okay, yeah, there we go. This is what I'm talking about. And then my calendar just got so busy that I actually had to set like a limit on it because I was like, well, when am I ever going to be able to like find these people jobs if like I'm just constantly interviewing them? So we'll see what happens. But I can't wait to mark people. I fucking love marking people. I love it. I love it. Especially when it's so like objective. Like with the rubric, it's like the rubric doesn't lie. Like what do you want me to do? Like you've scored a 10. Like that's insufficient. Like you need help. You know what I mean? So I'm
like 10
at a 25. 10.
Oh, okay.
Only 23 to 25 is expert. Like that's if you score 23 to 25, I'm like, we are finding you a job like right now. And I highly doubt many people will score that. So not wishing that they don't score that. I hope everyone scores that. I just doubt people will score that. And it's recorded too. I'm going to record it because I have like 2 terabytes on Google. So I'm just going to record them on Meet and then they can see. And it's like the perfect example of why people actually need coaching when they actually go to one of these things. And I've noticed too, like the responses in my DMs are now so different. Like some people are being like super nice and super professional. Like the whole tone has changed. I was like, oh, that's right. Boss bitch Hillary. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Like that is rap, people. So I'm stoked. So it's been it was a good weekend. It's a good week. It's like busy. It's really busy. And that's what she said. She's like, girl, you're going to get so busy. And I was like, really? This is really interesting. Like, so she kind of like filled in some of those questions that I had. Like I've been having those questions for like the past 6 months. And then literally within like a 15-minute call. And I didn't even go into it thinking that this was something, it was her. And I could see it in the transcript. She's like, wait, what? Like if I were you, this is what I would do. This is like how you do it. And I was like, what? And then my comments in the transcript are just like, wow, whoa. She's like, last year I made 250K. It's like,
What?
what? Exactly. It's like, what? She's like, yeah, like this is like you have the upper hand here. Like you could make a ton of cash. It's like, what? And then she's like, here's how. It's like, oh my God, thank you. I told my dad, and he's like, sounds like you're going to be celebrating your first 10K month with Agnes pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's been pretty good so far. How about you? How are you doing?
Oh man, there's no way I can beat that. So let's just skip that question and
You got Wi-Fi! Woo! Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Wow.
good, right? I know. I was shocked. And like reading the transcript was just so funny because literally the only thing I'm saying is, really? Wow.
Wow.
Whoa. Wow. She's just like laying on this like awesome knowledge. Like, and she's like, I'll help you in any way you want. Like, send me messages. Like, she checked in with me. I was like, who are you? Like, wonderful angel lady. Like, Rose. Oh my God. So, because I asked her, I was like, because once I explained like who my network was, she's like, oh yeah, no, that's like super niche. That's really great. And I was like, oh, it's like, so recruitment's like a niche thing. She's like, oh yeah. And that's once then I like got, she's like, so wait, so what is it that you do? And I like explained it. She's like, hold on a second, girl. Like, people are coming to you? Like, wait, what? Like, I have to go actively like search all these people out all the time, and like no one responds to stuff. Like, hold up. It's like, I got the power. Finally. So yeah, we'll see. She even had like advice, like she's like, once you actually get started, like you're gonna want to incorporate because of all of these reasons. I was like, sick. Yes, I wanted to do that anyways, but I had no reason to yet. So like, yeah. She's like, yeah, you're gonna get so busy. And she's like, and once you get busy, you can hire people on and they get 50% of the commission. So it's on commission. That's how you hire people. And they get 50% of the take home. I was like, thank you. Okay. Like, I'm ready. Shocking. It was literally shocking. I was so happy. And I also on Friday, someone like messaged me. He found me on Twitter because I was like talking about how Otter, my recording bot, it does the funniest highlights of the meetings. Like, it used to be pretty good, but the highlights have been getting worse and worse and worse. And now they're just like downright funny and like kind of embarrassing. And so I like mentioned it on Twitter, and I guess this guy is like trolling Otter tweets or something, because he messaged me back and he's building something similar, but that's more for user experience designers and like user researchers. And so we booked a call. He's like, well, would you try this out? And I was like, why don't we book a call and you can show me what it is, and like I'll see what's up. So during our call, I was like, this doesn't really seem like a tool for me, but this seems like a perfect tool for like my entire network. Like, they'd all try this for sure. And he's like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah, like I have like 6,000 people who are like doing what you're talking about who would use this tool. I also have a newsletter, and I'm now looking for like advertisements or sponsors to do in my newsletter. So if you're interested in that, I publish it on the first of every month. I have something going out this month, but we can talk about like a package if you wanted to put that out, like a video or like blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, that sounds great. It's like, cool. I'll get back to you. So I'm going to like, I don't know. I kind of want to put like some like 3-month sponsorship package together where he like sponsors the newsletter, and then he gets like a video demo of what this thing is at the top of the newsletter. Because I feel like people would actually really like it. Like, it's a cool product, and especially for UX designers, and they get like 2 months free. So I was like, Yeah, man. Let's do it. So Friday was like the best day ever. And I didn't even get out of bed. Like I was so tired from the night before because I'd done like so much boxing and like working on their website and like all this stuff at the boxing ring. Like I did like 3 workouts. It was insane. So I was just exhausted on Friday. So I was in my pajamas and like taking all the calls from my iPad like in bed, and they were like the best calls. It's like, yeah. So it was it just shows like half the battle is showing up, right? Like even when you're tired, even when you're still in your pajamas, like still take that call. Just don't turn on your video, or like still take that phone call even if you're in bed. Like just do it, and like really good things can happen, right? As opposed to being like, oh, I'm too tired, I don't feel like it, and you know.
What's with the accent?
That's my, when I get tired I get French. No.
What?
No, I'm joking.
Okay. Yeah, but I think from that, whatever you're going through, I really see the power of having like traffic or audience, right? In your
Yeah,
case, like you do have a list of people, and I think
yeah,
that's what a lot of people, like including myself, like we are actively trying to build up.
yeah.
So we're kind of late to the game, but like for me previously, it has always been going after the other people, right? And then, just kind of pushing yourself every single day to hit a certain number every day. And then for the week, for the month, and then hopefully you hit like the goals that you have set for yourself. And the cycle just keeps repeating.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you rely solely on that, I believe that's where a lot of people kind of exit the game after a year, after 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is.
Because it's such a
So
grind, and it feels like you're talking
yeah,
into the void. You're like, hello. Yeah,
yeah, and it's like a mental game every single day,
yeah,
just to see like how many punches can you take today.
yeah. Literally, absolutely. And that's like just talking to my dad. He's like, it's so funny because like, what is it, like 4 years ago? It's just you screaming into the void, like hello, and like you had no idea, and like you just kept going. And now look, things are actually starting to like pay off. And I was like, yeah, that's very true. But yeah, it was a lot of like yelling to nobody. Nobody cared, like
Mhm.
at all. And now I put out a poll, and it's like the best way for me to like get people to DM people. It's insane.
Okay. I
LinkedIn,
think
man. LinkedIn polls and DMs, because you can see exactly how they voted, and you can see how they
mm,
voted before the poll closes. So you just
mm,
like start messaging them. I messaged like 88 the first, like on Monday, and then I saw like, oh, like an extra like 20 people voted. So then on Tuesday I messaged like the next 20, and it keeps it in that order. So like
mhm,
you can kind of like figure it out. And because they voted on your poll, you can like connect with them even if they're a third degree connection. You can connect and then send them a message. So I just on those messages, like I have like a secret code for myself, right? So like it depends, like the message I send you on our cold LinkedIn thing, it tells me which funnel you're going into, right? So like
mhm.
for this assessment call one, it's like, hi, name, I'm Hillary. It's a pleasure to connect with you on LinkedIn. So when I see that, I know, okay, the next message I send them is the thank you for participating in my poll. You would like help finding your next role in UX. I invite you to blah blah blah. Here's the link, you know?
Mhm.
Whereas if it's like just the cold DM, like, hey, are you looking for coaching services? That one's a different direct connect message, right? So I have these like
Okay.
little filters for myself, but then because then I'm just like copying and pasting the thing and changing their name out. So it doesn't take that
Mhm.
long to like message out 80 people, but you can do it. Um and you can message your second and your third degree connections. So
Mm,
it's pretty
mm,
sweet, and like you see them right there. But most of them were first degree connections, which is going back to your point of like I've built up people because I've just been literally grinding for
Yeah, for years.
so long.
Yeah.
So fucking
Okay.
long.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
crazy.
Well, I think first of all we have to acknowledge like how far you have come.
Yeah,
Right? We work together. I don't think like we were even thinking of funnels and stuff like that.
not really, no.
Right? And I think like I just really want to acknowledge the fact that right now this new funnel that you have, it's not even a new funnel, it's more of like an add-on component to it,
Yeah,
which I think is so genius because first of all, you are giving them exactly what they want, right?
exactly.
They want a better job, they want better prospects, better opportunities, and pay rises, whatever that is. So you are giving them that, like you're offering them that. But like you said, you have a rubric, right? From the rubric, you can very objectively tell them that you have problem ABC. It's not gonna get you what you want.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
the solution to ABC is it happens to be me. Yeah. So I feel like it's a very nice add-on because you're giving them what they want. Like it's sort of like a bait that they want, right?
Yeah,
For a lack of a better term, right?
yeah,
But you are also objectively telling them why they have a certain problem. It's not like when we are doing marketing, it's always, are you facing this problem?
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, and let me tell you why you're facing that problem. So at
Yeah,
the end of the day, if people are not even thinking and they see your content, they're not gonna feel like, oh yeah, that's me.
yeah,
Right? Because it's always mindlessly scrolling nowadays. So
yeah,
I feel like to get people's attention now has been like, it's so much more difficult than it was last year.
yeah,
That's
totally,
how I feel right now. So
totally.
yeah, so the good thing is that for you already have a list of 6,000 over people. You have so many connections on LinkedIn. You have been doing all of that for years. So I'm not saying that it's an overnight thing. It's a
No,
1 year thing. It
no.
took you what 4 year plus?
4 years.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's a very good topic for today,
Hmm.
which is I would like to bring you back to when you first started.
Hmm.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about how you started, even trying to build a community, even though I know it's not on purpose,
Yeah.
but can you just take us back there and, tell us what was going through your mind, how you did what you did, and how you navigated, especially through the process when no one was listening, like you said, right? You were shouting into the void for so long. And I think that's the part that a lot of people don't know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
right?
the part
And
they
when
don't
it
see.
exactly. So yeah, shall we go back to 4 years ago?
Yeah. So I was heartbroken because I had just completely failed at getting my visa, my work permit to like live and run my business in Spain.
Mhm.
Oh, it's like bitter. I'm still a little like touchy about it. But yeah, it was like a complete fail. And I didn't hit the quotas. I didn't like, there was just like so many things. I'd given them all my money. So I was like, I had like no money. I'd given them to
Okay.
lawyers, to the, like everybody, like, and everyone else had my money. I even was renting an office in Spain. Like, that's how optimistic I had been. So
Mm-hmm.
stupid. So like I had healthcare, like everything. Like it was so stupid. I did everything backwards. It's fine. It's fine. So complete fail, like utter
Okay.
failure. And I was feeling like that too.
Mm.
And because I'd always been like a writer, I'd been doing, some customer service stuff. I was like, I had experience kind of on the board of like different groups when I was working as the executive director, which I'd also failed at like my design degree because I like broke my leg and like I was still like healing from that so many years later. And I just kept feeling like, okay, like what the hell do I do? Like, what do I do now?
Mm.
And my friend, who at the time was like trying to get into Meta, which it wasn't called Meta at the time, but whatever. She was like, "Hey, have you heard of this like UX thing?" I was like, "Say what? Like, what's UX?" And she was like, "No,
Ux.
UX." And I was like, "What is that?" And so she said, "It's user experience. You've been doing it for your whole life." And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting. I totally have." And like that took me back to like when I was 15 doing user experience research, like guerrilla testing
Mm.
in malls and all that stuff. I
Mm.
was like, oh, they have a name for it now. Like before we just called it like guerrilla marketing, like, but we were like collecting data, like data banks. Like I was wheeling around data banks, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
it's like, oh, this is so interesting. It kind of puts everything together. Like it puts, you know, you need to make it usable, you need to make it accessible, you need to make it whatever. And so I started, she was like in some course for it. So I like signed up for the course and they were using all this terminology that was just like pissing me off. I was like, what the hell are these people talking about? Literally, like, this course was supposed to take 3 months. And like 6 months in, I was like, what the heck are they talking about? Like, how come I'm not getting this? Like, I've done this all. Like, what are these tests that they're talking about? What are these statistics that they're talking about? Like, they're not even really citing them. They're just like giving me abstracts. Like, I'm way too detail oriented to just like get an abstract and like be satisfied. Like, I
Mm.
need to like see the test results. I need to like dive into it. I need to know all the nitty gritty details. And so I started reading like all the extra material from this course, like all the links. Like I basically just like went on like a link data bank hunt and like took all their links down and like started reading all that material. And I still wasn't like really getting it because the books were like contradicting what the abstract was saying. And I was like, ah, like, I was so enraged. And then at the same time, I was dealing with like some serious health issues because obviously I was like distraught that I was like back at home, not in
Mm.
Spain,
Mm.
like just like at the time too, like I was still drinking, like my parents were like really drinking, like it was just like a really like negative environment, like really, really negative, super intense, like high intensity, like screaming. There could be screaming at any time of the day. Okay. Like intense screaming any time of the day. So it was really difficult for me to like calm down. So as a result, my body started like reacting and my hands started like bleeding all the time. So that really like took away from me being able to like use the computer or like type notes or like hold my like stuff. And my technology at the time too was like total crap. Like I didn't have like a good phone. I didn't have a good monitor. I didn't even have a monitor. I was like using like an old TV as my monitor. So it was like really bad. I had like these tablets, but they were like such crap tablets. Like it just like everything was like bad.
What
So
year was that?
that's 2019, 2018, 2018,
20.
2019.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I left Spain in 2018 and came back in 2019. So it was, yeah, 2019. And so I like did a whole technology audit. So like, yeah, I was like still taking this course, still reading all these books, but then I did like my own technology audit. So I followed myself for like 30 days and I like had a little whiteboard and I like wrote down the things that I did during the day and what I was using. So like I said, like, okay, like I'm using my tablet to do my math stuff. I'm using my laptop to do this. I would like to use my phone to do this, but I can't. So I'm using this. Like I just like started like doing an audit of like what I was doing every day, what was making me happy, what was draining my energy, like what and over that 30 days, I like looked back on it after and I saw like, okay, like I really need to get an iPad. That's going to
Mm.
actually improve a lot of these things. And so I like researched the iPad, like researched, okay, here's the tech stack that I'm like thinking about using based off of these courses. Here's the iPad I need to get in order to do that. So I like by the end of 2019, I picked up an iPad and that was like my only good piece of tech. Like I had some like secondhand Spanish laptop, total crap. Like, and I was trying to like use software that wouldn't even run on my laptop. So like I was like using like because as I was like starting to like learn this stuff, I was like, okay, like let me try this stuff, and nothing was like working. So I got the iPad, and then that actually started to make it like easier because I could actually like see the homework assignments from this class, because like before, like I just like couldn't zoom in enough to like actually like see the wireframes or like see the flows. And so it started to make a little bit more sense to me, but again, my hands were like really bleeding and there was like tons of issues. So I thought like, okay, how can I, you know, learn this but also like have notes and like actually like start like using this knowledge to like help people, because I'd taken a course that was like, hey, people need to speak English better, you can be an English teacher. And I was like, okay, cool. So like that was kind of like, that was like, it was like a 20-day class or something, and that was like sparking me to like start using LinkedIn more as like a tool to find people. But it was originally about this like English stuff, right? But I was learning UX. And so uh to kind of combine those things and to like start understanding LinkedIn more, I took my iPad, and every day I would like make a bubble about like UX, whatever the topic was that I like didn't understand of the day, which was like I had so many topics. So and then I put it as the background on my like Zoom, and then talk to the iPad while recording myself, because Otter would join the conversation. Actually, at the time it wouldn't join. I'd have to upload the video after, but whatever. Otter would transcribe it. And so I'd get like a text file of me talking about this stuff as I like tried to learn it. So it's basically like me taking notes, but it was like verbal notes that then got transcribed. And so, and it started getting me onto like LinkedIn more, because I was posting these videos on LinkedIn every day because I had something new every day that I was doing anyways. And it was the only way that I could like get the notes from it. So I just started posting them on LinkedIn.
But why LinkedIn?
Well, because during that like teach English course thing, the guy was like, listen, you can choose Facebook. And I was like, no, I'm not doing Facebook. Because at the time, like it was still those like little circles that would like pop up onto your screen, like whenever someone like messaged you, you know, like how it used to be that like really annoying weird circle.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to just like be a circle on someone's phone. Like they could be doing anything, and I'm just gonna like pop up as this like little circle. Like, no, thank you. That is like way too personal. Like, and I don't want like other people like popping up as little circles on my phone. Like that's so weird. So I was like, no to Facebook. No, thank you. And he said the choices were basically Facebook, LinkedIn, and he was mentioning Instagram, but he didn't really know a lot about Instagram. And for me, Instagram had always been like this like weird like sexting space. You know what I mean? Like people are always like trying to like get up in my business on LinkedIn or on Instagram. So I was like, that doesn't seem like where I'm gonna find my professional people, because like that's a weird space for me. So I chose LinkedIn. I was like, okay, like let's see LinkedIn. I had like less than 200 connections. And they were all like from school or like from, you know, whatever. Like it wasn't, I had nobody. They were like random ass connections on LinkedIn. And so I just started like posting these videos. And so I was calling it Hillary Cluett's UX Vocabulary Club. It's like the title, because he had suggested like you create this like business page and whatever, and you direct them to your page, and like he had all these like things, but I didn't really like his whole system because it seemed too pushy, and it wasn't like it seemed like it was working because he was attracting us, but like that was like a very specific group of people going for something very specific, and I was like, that's not really, I don't think I'm gonna like follow this model. I'm gonna like make my own model. So I turned my page into a club. so that people, when they followed the page, they thought they were like joining a club, and as opposed to like following a business page. And so that started to like get me more people like at least following this page where I was like posting these videos every day. You know, I started messaging, like at the time you could message like 120 people a day that you didn't know a day, and now you can't do that. Now it's like you can message like 30 people a day that you don't know, and they're like, excuse me, you're reaching your limit, like your monthly limit, and blah, 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 whatever. So, and even at that time it reduced to like 80 people a day. So like I was just doing that every day, like for like 5 months I was messaging as many people as I could per day. And that's actually when I started using a robot to do my messaging for me. I started, but the robot couldn't run on my old computer, so they gave me like free VPN, because they're like, oh, your computer's such a potato, like we feel bad for you, here's a free VPN access to like our software, because they were just building it at the time. Now it's like super expensive, but they were just building it at the time, and my use case was like an edge case, and they were like, oh, this is so interesting. So like they built me this like automation robot thing, and then I was just sending it out. It was fun because I could like drink tea and like watch these messages being typed out and sent on my behalf. And I was paying for LinkedIn too at the time, which I would not recommend, because what ended up happening was like the messages, you end up with 2 inboxes when you pay for LinkedIn. And if someone responds on one, it doesn't necessarily go to the other one. So you end up losing a lot of like your messages. Like if you message them there again from your like random inbox, they're like, I messaged you back. And you're like, oh my God, I look like you're such an idiot. Like, thank you, InMail. So it was like a big learning curve. And then I got my iPhone, because I was like, okay, like I'm starting to get like busier. I need like some way that I can like, you know, maybe do these videos not necessarily on my iPad, like use my iPad for notes and like for calls with people, because like people started reaching out to me, and I started reaching out to people about like helping them with their English. And so I actually like got like 4 clients just to help them with their English as UX designers. And so I was still learning like the language of UX. And so now this is like 2020, because that's when I got my phone. Secondhand iPhone. I'm not like bougie. So I got a few clients, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, this is really interesting. But I realized like they were also like missing some like professional skills. Like it wasn't just the English, it was like some professional stuff. So that's when I picked up like the executive coaching course, and I finished the executive coaching course. I finished my course to teach English to professionals, like the master course on that. So I just like picked up a few certificates that like helped me kind of gain the exact vocabulary I needed to help people precisely with these issues, while still learning UX and like understanding all this stuff. So yeah, I was putting out like random videos. It was 2021 that I actually put out one video every single day. So like before it had just been like sporadic. It was like me trying to learn, me trying to do whatever. 2021, every single day in 2021, I put out a video of, because at the time LinkedIn was like rewarding videos that kept people on the platform. So like if you didn't like use a YouTube video and bring it in, but like you actually like used, like you natively uploaded a video to LinkedIn, you would get like, it was easier to like promote it. So I did one video every single day in 2021. So I had 366 videos. And then that's really where the club kind of got a lot more people, because it was a lot easier to get people to like join something, like participate in something, when you'd already started putting yourself out there, you know? So it's all organic. Like it's always just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I'm going to try this. Oh, I'm going to try that. Like, here we go. And by the end of 2021, you know, I had more clients, and some of my clients were like, oh, you should check out this group, or you should check out this group, and you should do this thing. And so that's when I got involved with the Floxies. right? And then
Mhm.
so from there I met like a lot of really great people also. But it's basically just, yeah, exactly. It's basically just being like, it's just being this like constant like pivot, kind of like, okay, like here I can try this, I can try this, I can try this. But it's like being consistently that I haven't stopped, but I've just kind of like added to my skills as I was going, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then when you after because like I gave like a few presentations at Floxy's, I was like running a group there for like one of my other uh ideas. And um it wasn't until like you kind of like sat me down and were like, okay, but like what are you doing? That I really
Whoa.
started to like think about it in a way that wasn't so like sporadic, because like when you are just like grinding and you are yelling into the void every day, it's super easy to like pivot and change because no one's really listening and you're just kind of like collecting, right? Whereas uh like now, after all of our sessions, it just became so clear like what I offer, what I do, how I do it, all the success stories that I have with clients who I have had over the past like few years, you know, who have been kind enough to try different things with me, right? And it's now like I feel like so much more focused, and I can see like, okay, all of that, you know, messaging to people, all of those posts, all of this stuff now is starting, it's like almost past that tipping point where like it's just now, if I just keep it up, I can actually see like a future. Whereas before I never like saw into the future because like I came from, I was just like so depressed. I was like not like depressed, but I was like really, I don't want to like use that word lightly. Like I was just like distraught. Distraught is a better word
Mm.
for it. I was
Mhm.
distraught. I was like crying like anything I'd cry. Like literally anything I'd cry. And like I couldn't even like talk about what I did or like what I wanted to do because I was just like, I just want to be in
Mm.
Spain. Like not like my problems would be any easier there. It's just like my goals were so messed up. So, but now looking back on it all, like I'm happy that that's kind of what's happened because like my health is awesome now. I had time to like during all of these videos, during all these like past 2 years, I've had to go to like an allergist, a dermatologist, an immunologist, you know, all these different people to try and figure out like what the heck's going on with my body. Figured it out to the point where I went to my last immunology or dermatology exam and he was like, you're cured. How did that happen? Have you been using the cream? I was like, nope. He's like, whoa, like he like sat down, he was like so like shocked, he's like, I don't, he's like, do I have to come back? He's like, no. So like I've actually, and now like I'm going to the gym all the
Mm.
time, you know, I stopped drinking so much coffee, like I was having like 18 espressos a day, like who the hell does that? Like I, you know, so I was just like, and like smoking so much. So I just stopped it all, gained a bunch of weight because I like replaced it with dates and cashews. Dates are
Mm.
sugar, everybody. Like don't just eat dates because you think they're healthy. They're not. Like literally gained like 30 pounds in like a month. So now I'm like starting to like shed all of that also. And like with the boxing become like super strong after our sessions, like like know exactly where my strengths are and like what I can like offer to people in that funnel, like thinking more in like funnels instead of just like like whatever, like anything goes. It's like, nah, I'm putting you in this and fuck it. Yeah. Right? Like I can see that so clearly. Um so now I actually can like see a future Whereas before I couldn't see a
Mm.
future. Now I can see a future. I'm like, oh, there's totally gonna be like little Hillarys running around. Like, oh my God, like I can like see me supporting this. Like, oh, that's like a few years off. Like, wow. Like, but I can see that. Whereas before that was like that whole side was like blocked. I was like more looking to the past and like dealing with my immediate present of like being super sick, but also having to like just like talk about UX, try and find somebody, like do whatever. Like, so I think the journey, I guess everyone will have like their own unique journey, obviously, but like there's no set path. And like what I did end up noticing was like the more people I talked to who were CEOs or like, you know, as I like was talking to agencies and like all these different people, all of them were like, oh, you know, 10 years ago when I started, you know, I
Mm.
had nothing, or like I knew nobody, or like nothing happened. And now, 10 years later, it's the first time that I'm, you know, getting my 500K client, or like that I'm getting my whatever. So like it took them that decade to kind of figure it out and like get there. So I feel like now I'm like, okay, like I'm like halfway through my decade. But I like I feel even with like some of the automations that I'm using and some of like my systems are like different than the typical ones, because like I'll go on the call with like whoever's built it, so like Airtable or like whoever's building the tool. I like jump on a call with them, and then they're always like, oh wow, we never thought about using it that way. So like I always know that like I'm a little bit quirky, out of the box, like thinking about things way differently than people from these calls. So even now with like how easy it is for me to set up a landing page, set up a flow, set up all that stuff, and then even being able to like share that with the gym, you know, and like go and like set up their website in a few weeks with them. We already launched it, like set up their site, show them how easy it is to use it for themselves. Like, you know, it's like all of that's starting to really like come together so nicely. And like I got a free gym pass now for life. Perfect. They're like just stop. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, great, fit for life, like yes. So I think, yeah, like and I mean that's something I prayed about. Like I have to include God in this, because like the whole time I was praying, like literally like in 2019, like on my bed sobbing, praying, but like wasn't really like sure, wasn't super like into faith still. Like I was still like really rebellious, like drinking my face off, smoking my face off, just like fuck everything. And then it wasn't until like I started cutting stuff out, and like I was having these like nightmares. They were horrible. Like
Mm.
I describe my dreams to people and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, that's just a dream. Like, that's super fun. Like, that was like a great adventure. But like, my nightmares were like I was getting like attacked in my dreams, like hardcore attacked, like
Mm.
sexually abused, like just like hurt. Like I'd wake up
Mm.
and like there would be like physical like scratches all over my body. Like it's not like my bed has like sharp objects in it. It's like a bed. It's nice. Like, but like I was like getting really like attacked. And I just kind of like got sick of it. And it wasn't until literally November 2022 that I was finally like, you know what? I've had it with this. Like I need some like divine intervention like right now. Like whatever it takes, I'm in. I'm doing this. Help me, God. And like I started like reading my Bible. I bought like 4 Bibles. I like went to the Bible store. I was like, give me the Bibles. And, like, I bought like these books about it. All this stuff was like cross-referencing, like doing verses. Like I took a picture at one point of like my Bible study, and it was like I had like 5 books out. I was like writing. I bought a Bible that you could like write in on the sides. And I took a
Mm.
picture. My friend was like, that is the most Hillary Bible study I've ever seen in my life. I was like, yeah, like I need to go in. And so I was really praying and like uh my dreams totally, they stopped being aggressive. Like I was like God just like helped me so much. And so now I just like pray about everything. I'm like, God, I'm just giving it to you. I'm not even gonna worry about this anymore because like you've got it, you've got my back, you know. And then that's when you showed up and you were like, hey girl, like I want to help you. I was like, thank you, God. Like, yes, please help me. Like I was praying, I was like, God, like I gained all this weight, like an unhealthy amount of like weight. I don't fit into any of my pants and I don't want to go shopping again. I like my pants. You know, like I need a gym, praying for a gym. And I was like, I don't know really like how I'm gonna afford the gym right now or whatever. And then immediately found a gym. And then like 2 weeks later it was like building their site and now they're like never pay us again. It's like, cool. Great. So like I prayed last week because I was like, God, like I want to like fill this pipeline. Like I want to, you know, get like have this work. Like I want to do your will, but like this is, I think this is, you know, this feels like this is what you want me to do. And then I had that conversation with Rose and she's like, here you go. It's like, what? So I'm just being like giving everything to God instead of trying to like control everything, because like that's where a lot of my health issues came from too, was like me trying to like control situations that I had no control over, like my Spanish visa or like all of those things. And like just like giving that up to God has been really helpful, like really helpful. A lot less stress, a lot more joy, a lot more love. And then also like my parents have completely like changed their game now. Like they're like, the house is like really calm. It's never been this calm ever in my entire life, but it's like super calm. It's really beautiful. Like it's really lovely. Like everyone's like so lovely. And they've seen me like go through this transformation from like super distraught terror to like this like person who's like joyful and like lovely and like happy. And they kind of like wanted to like get on the boat, you know. So it's been a really interesting 4 years of like complete transformation. And that's why I think I'm so excited, because now I feel like, okay, like I'm mentally strong, I'm physically fit, I'm emotionally you know, fine. I've got God on my side. Like by that I don't mean like everything I do is like godly. I'm human, you know. Give me a break. But like I at least am putting all my faith there and like keeping my love there so that I'm not like being defensive or like not getting like uptight about stuff. So I was like, that's kind of like that's really all I need to do, and just like keep going forward. So and I'm finding things like are happening faster because I'm focused. It's like writing up that contract yesterday morning, you know. A few years ago that would have taken me all day. It took me 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Wrote it up, sent it to her, and I was like, oh, I wonder if this is right. But instead of having that perfectionist attitude, like, oh, maybe it's not right, let me just like hold on to this for like years and like not know, I just sent it to her. I was like, hey, this is a draft, like let me know. And she was like, it's perfect, you can start using this immediately, you know. So it's like I'm no longer being my block. I was like my biggest blocker before, and now I'm not blocking myself for anything. So I think that's a really big part of it. Because like even when you're sending out messages at first, you're like, oh, like will they like me? Like will they block me as spam? Like, oh no, will I be beneficial? And now I'm just like sending out messages like confident, like, hi name, it's like I'm Hillary. It's a pleasure to connect with you on LinkedIn, before they've even connected with me. You know, like it's like there's no what is that, self-consciousness. Like I'm self-aware, I'm very aware of what I'm doing, but like I've got more of like the child's attitude of like, whatever, it'll be fine, I'll be fine, everything's lovely, like, oh, you know, instead of holding myself back because of like what people think or are doing or whatever. And also cutting out things that aren't working too, right? Like that was a big part of it along the way, was like understanding like, okay, yeah, these videos are working right now, great. This message is not working, people are actually like reporting me as spam, so how can I change this message to be something else? And that's when I started doing interviews with them, because like everyone was blocking me. So I was like, oh, I'd love to hear your story. Tell me about your story. Let's do a call, right? Because then once you like build up a few people who've seen your face, who know you, who know that you're not just like some robot, but like enjoy talking with you, then they start commenting. They're like, oh, like Hillary was awesome, or like whatever, like Hillary was great for, and then that lets other people know like, oh, it's okay to talk to Hillary. You know, I did have a call on Thursday, I think. It didn't go very well. Like it was the harshest call ever, but it was like our internet connection was really poor. So she couldn't see my face. And I'm like very expressive with my face and I'm frequently smiling, even if I'm saying like a hard truth. I'm like smiling about it. So she missed out on like all of my body language. And the connection was really bad. And she took everything I said like really personally. And we were just talking about a resume. And it was very generic feedback that I was giving her. It's feedback that I've given live on YouTube streams before. So like I wasn't like giving her anything like new. And she was the first person who messaged me back and was like, that was really harsh and brutally honest. And it just made me be like, you know what? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yep. And what? And so I think that was like a defining moment for me to be like, I'm not going to be everybody's best friend. Not everyone is going to like me, but I will always speak the truth. And like, I'm not a sugarcoater. If you want someone to like blow smoke up your butt and say you're amazing, that's not me. If you actually want results, that's me. So, you know, and it just like, it kind of like pushed me over this, I think, thing that was holding me back where like I still wanted to be really likable and really whatever. And then it just like pushed me into this like, no, you're a professional lady who knows exactly what people need to do to succeed. And if they're not going to do it, that's not your problem. You don't need to hold their hand to make them do that. They can either do it or they don't have to do it. And if they want to do it, they're going to get results. If they don't do it, they're going to have the same results that they're getting right now, which is total shit. Whatever, you know, but it like, it clicked. It just clicked for me. And it's like, oh, I don't have to feel bad and like give them stuff because they're feeling sad. It's not my job to like make them not feel that way. It's my job to help them get results if they want to get results. And it just like, that was such a different mindset. So like, I'm really excited to go into these assessment calls because I no longer have that like false sentimentality of like, oh, you suck at this. Let me help you so much. Like I can like go in super objective and be like, hey, look, these are the 4 areas you significantly need to improve if this is your goal. If that's not your goal, whatever, keep it up, do whatever you want. But if this is your goal, these 4 things have to improve dramatically. Like you're at like 2 and you need to be at a 20. So like, how do you get there? Here's a few ways you can get there. You know, you can use my services, you can use whatever, but like, but it just like made it so like it took out the emotions for me because like I'm a very emotional, empathetic, compassionate person. But then it just like made it like, no, this is business and I'm a boss bitch, like whatever. So, it was great. It was great.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, that's my like long-winded journey.
No, I feel like it's, I mean, we have a lot of context, right? But it's the context that kind of make it the way it is.
Yeah.
You know? So from what I've learned, like in terms of organic audience building, what I've seen is that it takes years.
Yeah.
It doesn't take like months.
No.
Like there are people who have done it in months, but I really don't think that that is like as common as we think it is.
Yeah, it's not.
You know, because when they say like I reached, I don't know, 1,000 followers within like 30 days. It might be true for them. I'm not saying that they're lying, but it's definitely like a 1% kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Or they bought them. There are lots of opportunities to
Who
buy
knows?
people. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
it's
but
or they
there
have a big high school that had 500 people and they got every single person in their high school. You know what I mean? Like it's like okay.
I mean, there are people out there who write incredibly well, and they make incredible videos. Like I've seen them, and once you kind of see the quality of content that they are doing, you kind of understand how they manage to do it within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And the only thing that I can think to myself is there's no way I'm going to be able to do that because I can't create content like them. Like I've already accepted the fact that I need the years, I need to put in the reps in
Yeah.
order to get to that place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hearing from you as well. And
Yeah.
I think another very big thing is that you have chosen one platform.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that is not emphasized enough in today's age because we have so many platforms going on at the same time, and
Yeah.
like there are so many people preaching about repurposing content, which
Yeah.
I think is hit or miss. Some
Yeah.
people, when they repurpose it, it works. Some people it doesn't.
Mhm.
Like for me, it doesn't particularly work, because I'm posting both on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and obviously the dynamic or the people that I have on both of these platforms are so different.
Yeah.
But I still do it, just for time. But my main platform so far is still Instagram. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think a very big lesson that we have also learned from your case is that you really need to hone in on one platform, and it is because that you hone in on that platform, you know the platform so well,
Yeah.
and you know that LinkedIn was pushing video in 2021.
Mhm.
And that's how you were like, okay, I'm gonna create a video once a day.
Yeah.
And I
Which
feel
was
for most
hard. That was
people,
hard.
yeah, I mean, once a day, a video once a day, it's not like a text post, it's
No.
not, a
Yeah.
graphic or something like that. It is a video. Like
Yeah.
when people watch videos, they don't think about the amount of hours that goes into all
Yeah.
of that until you create your very first video. Then you're like,
Oh
oh my
God.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think that people really understand the platforms that they're on, to be
Yeah.
very honest. And I
Yeah.
mean, even for me, I don't really keep up with all of that. Yeah, I think that I definitely should. But for Instagram, it's one big mess. So
Totally.
we'll see how it
It
goes.
is. It's such a shit show.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
I think that's totally like using LinkedIn so often, you can see what's working and what's not working like so clearly. And like right now I know polls work so freaking well. You can't even schedule a poll, okay? Like you can schedule all your other posts on LinkedIn. You can't schedule a poll. And it creates engagement. It gets people like it gives you a list. Like it's this brilliant thing on LinkedIn. And like you can't make your poll complicated. So I've realized this. Like I've put out a bunch of polls. If you make like a big text before your poll, no one reads it. You make your question kind of complicated or tricky, no one reads it. You can do clickbaity stuff with your answers by like not really giving the right answer, and then people like run off in the comments. But like it depends like what you're looking for. Like that's fun if you like want a bunch of like kind of trolly messages that you can like create a newsletter about or something. But like if you actually like want a list and like want to DM people, a poll, like a yes no poll, it's so good. And like my yes was even yes, I want help, right? Because then in my message it's like you would like help. You've said it. I saw it, you've said it. And even for user research, like that's how I got like 15 people. People are always like, oh, I can't find user research participants, blah blah blah, fill out my Google form. I'm like, literally put out a poll. Like, what are you doing? Stick on a poll on LinkedIn. Like the last time I did that, I had 15 people within like 3 days. to do a user research for me to talk about like why communication is such an important skill for them to have in their job. And it was like, like it was so easy. And people were like, oh, this is so great. I'm so happy to be here. Like, here, let's like have our 15-minute user experience research like thing. And so it's really I think polls right now are just like super good. There's also those documents, like the PDF, like carousel documents that like seem to be okay, but I think the polls, like if say my engagement the week before was like 200 people, polls always bring it up into like the 5,000s. And if you just keep reposting your poll, it'll just like keep going out to the thousands somehow. It's insane. Like it's the one thing I know. Like one time I did a test. So I started off with 200 last year. I did a test with this because I started with like 200 post impressions because I hadn't posted for like a week and it's like, oh, I don't know what I want to post, blah, blah, blah. And so all I did was polls. Like I was putting out a new poll every 3 days. I got up to 50,000 post impressions just from polls for 1 week of posting polls, like every few days. It went right up, like skyrocketed from 200 to 50K in a week. Like, what the fuck? I couldn't even keep up with the polls. Like I honestly, like half those polls I like lost because like I couldn't even keep up with like I was like, oh wow, okay, that's insane. So like I know, you could post like an event, post your thing, do whatever, but then like if you just like post a poll that lasts 1 week, 2 weeks is too long. 2 weeks is too long. People stop answering your poll after 7 days. So like don't even bother with the 2 weeks. But like the 1 week polls, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And then just like repost that shit all the time. Like reposting your own stuff on LinkedIn is fine. It's fine. Like when you repost on other things, people are like, wait, what? Like I can see it's like now on your feed like 5 times. Reposting on LinkedIn, it doesn't show up the same way as it does on other things. So like it's super, super easy. And also like to grow the newsletter. So I did an experiment. I took the newsletter off of my top 3 like featured posts or whatever. Okay. So I was steadily growing my newsletter passively by like 200 to 400 people every month, right? Since I launched it not this January, but last January. So I took it off for like 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then I noticed I was like, oh, there's only like 18 new subscribers. Like that's weird. Like that's like so low compared to like what I was just like randomly getting. So I put it back onto my featured. And within like 2 days, I already had another like 150 subscribers. Huh. So I think it's because when people can visit your page, right? So like I usually get about like 700 people visiting my page daily. So those people want some way of like remembering you and like keeping up to date with you. Maybe they're afraid to connect with you or like they don't necessarily understand how you like follow people on LinkedIn. So it's a way for them to like stay up to date and like stay in the loop and like not lose me entirely because it's super easy to lose people on LinkedIn, right? And like people are afraid to connect with people. Like most people are like, oh, like I don't send messages. I'm like, what? You crazy? Like it's the best. It's so easy. And so I think they just like click on, like it's the third one. It's not even like the first one. It's the third one. But I think they click on it and like it's just going up and up and up and up and up again. So that's also something is like starting the newsletter and keeping it there, because while it's not like the best place for newsletters, it's a great spot to like get the masses on LinkedIn like without doing anything. So
Okay. Yeah. So I think the biggest lesson that I've gotten from you is that, you are always very curious.
Yeah.
And you show up every single day.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's a very big difference between you and most of the people out there. Like you're very optimistic. At least to me.
No, I'm optimistic.
What I get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a very good trait for an entrepreneur to have. You're always like trying things out, and you're like curious, and you're like, oh, this is interesting, this didn't work, that worked. It took me, I think, at least a year to conscientiously put myself in that mindset, because I'm naturally very pessimistic.
Okay.
I am very risk averse,
Yeah.
you know and it took me a lot of work to purposefully get out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of understand, like when I work with people, when I have new clients, or when I just hear people telling me that, like, oh, this is difficult, or like, I'm scared, like, I understand, but you have to still push yourself to do
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
there's really no other way other than just stop crying about it and just do it. Or you can
Yeah.
cry and do it at the same time. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. The point is just that you have to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like probably the biggest thing that I
Yeah.
think, like, you have reached that level of success that you have, like the 6,000 over people that you have in your subscriber list. I think that's probably the biggest reason.
Yeah. I'd agree. I totally agree.
Mm,
Just and like to like do a video every day, like I had to change my whole schedule. Like I had to say
mm,
no to
mm,
so many things because I was like, yo, I actually have to put out a video today and it's getting kind of late. And whew.
mm.
So I actually started waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to be able to put it out before 7 a.m. Like
Wow.
so that I would have a day where I wasn't necessarily like so focused because I still had like clients or like I was still trying to like do my courses, like do all this stuff. I was like, these videos are really like getting intense. And at the time, it was still really intense in the house. So like I could not make a video in the evening because it was like a party house. So like there was no way I could do it. So like there was like this grace period in the morning where I could do it. And so I had to change everything to make that happen. And it's interesting. It was really interesting. Like I didn't see a lot of my friends. I didn't, but and now it's only now that like some of my friends are starting to come back around. They're like, oh hey, like what's going on? Like I've been seeing your posts on LinkedIn. I'm like, you should be liking them. What's your problem? But like they're like, oh, like how's it going? Right? Whereas before they're like, why do you hate me? I'm like, I don't hate you. I'm busy as fuck. Like
Mm.
I'm busy making myself busy. Like
What?
like because like I could have just like kept going. Like it's so much easier to like go hang out with your friends or like go do something that you're comfortable doing. It's a lot harder to like do something that you have no idea if it's gonna give you any returns. You don't even really know what you're talking about. You don't know the system very well, but like you're still going and doing it anyways because you'll learn something. You'll either learn that like you suck at that thing or like you're going to learn that like, oh, okay, this is going to help me do this thing. Right? Or like you can use those stories when then you talk to people who are doing other things and like, oh, you're doing this. Oh, cool. Like, oh, maybe we could do it together this way. And like the only way to get those conversations going is to actually like show up and try that thing that you're like afraid of or that you think is going to be useless, right? So even when people around you are saying like, no, come out with me, no, do this, like, no, get a husband, right? Like so it's
Oh my
kind of you
God.
just have to like just I think the curiosity thing really helps me. I think you're right. I think you nailed it there. Being curious and optimistic is definitely like
It's
why I'm like,
powerful.
oh, like what's going on over here? Like, it is powerful. It is powerful. It is powerful. Yeah, because that can beat fear, right? That can beat fear and complacency any day. So whereas if you're not necessarily optimistic about it, you're gonna let like fear kind of be like, oh, but like what if? And then if you're not like just showing up and like you're not curious, then you're gonna let complacency take over, like, oh, but my bed is so comfortable, or like, oh, but like, do I really need to do that? It's like, yeah, yes, you do. Just do it now.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I feel like even for me, I'm learning so much just from, just hearing your experience and your thoughts. But there are two areas that I kind of want to zoom into.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So for the first one, yeah, but this is for me. My
Mhm,
question
mhm.
is that when you are creating content, right, you mentioned that it was from a process of learning,
Yeah,
a way to take notes, a way to learn, and it's just like I'm just gonna post it on LinkedIn. You had zero expectation,
yeah,
okay, but that was 4+ years ago. So
yeah,
if let's say someone today, right, came to you and they're saying like, okay, you have 6,000 over subscribers, and my goal for this year it's just maybe 500 or even 1,000 subscribers
yeah,
or followers, whatever it is. But the thing is that they already have that expectation,
yeah.
right? Because I mean, um, 2023 and 2019, it's totally
They're
different,
different. Yeah,
right? Today, we all know that we need to have like the attention of people. We need to have a community and all of those things.
yeah.
So, my question is, what advice can you give to someone who were to ask you for help in terms of creating content, but also having that expectation, even though they know that they shouldn't? What would you say to them?
I mean, that's actually a pretty reasonable expectation. It's not like, they're not saying like, I need 20,000 people. It's like, okay, where the hell are
Mm-hmm.
you going to, like, what platform are they going to let you for free get 20,000 people? Good luck, right? Like 1,000, you're still in like the free zone. So like that's not unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
However, like, what do those 1,000 people care about? Like, is it something you also care about? If it's not something you care about, they're probably also not going to care to like listen to you. And
Could you elaborate?
yeah, so like if you're trying to like create a community in of a topic or like like say I was creating a community for Dungeons and Dragons, okay?
Okay. Uh-huh.
I've played twice with my brother. Maybe it was once. I don't even know. I had more fun setting up the character. Okay, like creating like the character persona. I was like, oh my god, okay, I'm a little troll. Like my voice is like this. Like I had so much fun setting up the character. I got to D&D. I fell asleep. We played like 6 hours. It was so boring. I couldn't. I was like happy to be there with my brother and his friends, but I
Mm-hmm.
literally was asleep at the table. Okay, so say I wanted to set up a D&D community
Mm.
and I had this expectation I'm going to get 1,000 people to set up my D&D community. There is no way that anybody in the D&D community would want to hear about my boring ass playing D&D as I slept. Like people would be like, "What?" I'd get 1,000 trolls who hated me, but like I
Mm.
wouldn't get a community. Like I wouldn't build a community because I'm not actually passionate or interested about that topic at all. Like I
Mm.
know it through a third party, so like I could probably write 12 newsletters about it just from how often I've heard my brother talk about D&D, right? And like I know random information about it because of that, but it's all third party. Like I'm separated from it. It's not something that's like close to my heart. It's not something I really care about. So I could superficially start this community, write my newsletters, be like, yeah, D&D, become a dungeon master. Like I know some of the key words. Don't get me wrong. Like I can nerd out, but it would be superficial. Whereas with my community, I was genuinely like trying to understand why the Nielsen Norman group made things so fucking complicated, why they were taking some of these statistics and totally warping it just to fit a narrative and not actually going back to the root of the tests and like understanding the actual test. Like I was actually like passionate about this. I still am very passionate about this because everyone talks about the laws of UX. You're like, okay,
Mm.
where did those come from? You're reading like 2 sentence abstracts of like an entire data set that you haven't touched. You're not gaining insights, you're regurgitating bullshit. So like, would you
Mm.
please go to the data? How do we get to the data? Like I just like I can get so into it. So I'm super
Mm.
passionate about it. And then that starts sparking conversations. It can spark fights, which are also great for engagement. It doesn't really matter. But like it's something that I truly care about. I care about the user's experience. You know, I like for my community, now I'm speaking about my community. So that's what I mean. Like it has to be something that you're actually like passionate about. And you don't have to be good at it. I wasn't good at it at all. Like I was just trying to explore it. So you have to be passionate about it, curious about it, and ready to explore whatever that means. Right now we have something like ChatGPT where you can be like, hey, I'm exploring this topic. Can you give me like the top 30 ideas that I should do some research into, you know? And then you already have like a little bit of content right there that you can like start like, you know, figuring out, oh, okay, like these are the hot topics right now in UX, or like I knew about case studies, but related to UX specifically, like that was something that I like really wanted to start learning about, because like I noticed in the community people kept bringing up that word. So I actually started a subgroup just for case studies, because I was like, okay, all we're going to talk about here is case studies. And now finally next Thursday, that group is finally, not a lot, but that group's finally going to start generating a little bit of income, because for a whole year I hosted it for free. And now those sessions are paid, right? They're $5. Like, it's not like it's like break the bank, but like, you know, I have 9 people showing up on next Thursday, the 6th. I don't know what day that is, but to do a case study workshop, you know? So like you can, once you like have like something you're passionate about, you can start to see, okay, there's all these like little subtopics that people are interested within this, and like start to explore those. And so you get even like micro communities within your big community, you know, that there, and then people are like, oh, like I gotta tell my friend about this, like, oh, like, yeah, I'm gonna come to this event, whatever that is. And you can start creating, you know, that's how the Design Confidence Club came up, because that's like for junior designers specifically. And that's been in the works for like 3 years, right? It's like a micro community within all this stuff. So because people are like, oh, I have no confidence. It's like, really? They're like, nothing. You're like, okay. And that came from some articles. Like I wrote articles, right? So like with my videos, it's like if you are going to pick one platform, you can't just like do one thing. So like your community is going to like expect a lot of, not expect, but like consume it in a lot of different ways. So like, yeah, you can post a carousel. Yeah, you can write a newsletter. Now like basically anyone, you just have to turn on creator mode. Before you had to like be invited to write a newsletter on LinkedIn. So you can write your newsletter, you can write articles. Articles are different than posts, right? They're kind of like a newsletter, but they just like don't go out to anyone specific. They just like live there. So like I have like 99 articles on LinkedIn, just because I would take the transcript from my video and put it into like an article format with like some links and stuff that people could like check out or like elaborate on, you know? So it's like reprocessing your content, but like in different ways on the same platform, so that people are just like seeing it in all these different ways. And they're like, oh, I think I saw a video about that. You're like, oh, now I'm reading the article. And then you can also share it in different ways too. So you're like, oh, hey, I saw in your post you were talking about edutainment. Like, oh, I wrote this article about edutainment. Like, here you go for you, right? Like, or like someone's like, oh, like, what's the difference between this spelling and this spelling? And you're like, oh, look, I made a video about it. Here you go. Like you can start sending people stuff and like making something specifically for them that they were talking about. And then they're like, oh, and they'll repost it. They'll be like, look, she did this just for me. Da, da, da. Like, I love this, you know, and like doing those like interviews with people to get them like excited about who you are, just to like know who you are and like how excited you are about this topic that they care about. That's really like the community aspect of it. Because if you're always just like, oh, come to my master class, blah, 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 people are like, would you shut up already? Like, nobody cares. Who are you? What are you even doing here? You know, like you're not going to build a community that way. So it's like you have to care about it. You have to actually care about the people and like get to know them, like genuinely like get to know them. Easy way to do that, ask them what book they're reading. If you're like totally out of like luck for everything and you just like don't know how to start your community, but you're like interested in a certain topic and like you're trying to find other people interested in that topic too, like just ask them about the books that they're reading, and you'll quickly find a great reading list, but also like people are super willing to like talk and like have genuine conversations, right? Like, because then you're not just like marketing at them, you're like building this thing with them, and you're getting help from them, they're getting help from you. So it's possible. Like I think 1,000 people is totally possible, but like you just have to like use all the different sides of it. It can't just be like, oh, I post reels every day. It's like, okay, and
Okay. So can I say that as someone who is new to the content creation game and wanting to build up a community, your advice for them would be to hone in on one platform,
Mhm.
be genuinely passionate about the niche or the topic that
Yeah,
they're talking about, right? Otherwise, other people are going to see right through you.
totally.
And last but not least, also to you know kind of change things up once in a while, right? For your followers, for your subscribers, or for like the potential people who will be joining your community, you need to be
Mhm.
communicating with them in various different modes of communication. So
Yeah,
it's not always like for LinkedIn, let's say, it's not always a text post or
yeah,
it's not always a video. Like it can be a combination of different things.
yeah,
But I would say the most important thing is, like you said, to always listen to what the people are talking about, what
yeah,
they have questions about, and just delivering the information to them.
yeah,
So it's always give, give, give. But when it comes to you asking for something like, oh, I have a paid workshop, I have this new program thingy, for non-English speakers or whatever it is, and then that is when people will start to raise their hands,
yeah,
and then that is when you will get clients.
yeah.
Did I miss anything?
No, that's about it.
Okay. The next thing that I want to zoom in on is something that I feel you are doing. You're probably the best at it that I know of. Okay.
I'm
What?
blushing. What is it? Oh my god.
I'm yet to say anything. Okay. Um, for me, I think that you are the greatest at starting conversations.
Ah, yes.
Okay, whether it's with a junior designer or with a CEO, whether it's for like clients, like you want to get client work, or whether you just want to do research, you just want to have a chat, like whatever it is, you start conversations. Like you are the best person that I know who is doing all of that. Like it kind of even hit me in the head, like, what are you doing? Like, so I always tell myself that, okay, I need to start having conversations with people, but I'm going to start small because I'm not used to it. So I'm going
Mhm,
to have like maybe one call a day, for
mhm,
example.
mhm.
Right? If it's not like a discovery call, it's going to be just a chat, or it could
Yeah,
be for research, whatever it is. But for me, my rule is just one a day,
yeah.
right? And it was honestly inspired by you. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are so many of us out there who don't even think that having conversations would actually solve like 99% of our
Oh my god, it
problems.
solves everything.
Yeah. And like, as we mentioned earlier, there's the fear, the insecurity. What if I'm bothering them? What if they block me? What if they're mean? And all of those
Yeah.
things. Right. So I kind of just want to hear your take on that, and, any advice you would give to someone, to a creator who just wants to start.
Yeah. Well, first of all of those things can happen. They can block you, they can be mean, and they can like mark you as spam.
Right.
It does happen. But I think it depends on like how you're like approaching the conversation. So I think I, th- I think a lot of that comes from, well, I was always like in trouble since I started any sort of like formal school. So even when I was like little, like I stopped wanting to go to daycare because like I didn't like how the lady was like talking to the kids. She'd call us all lazy bones. I was like 2 or 3, and I was like, Mom, I am not a lazy bone. Like I do not like how she's talking to us. And my mom was like, okay, so I will stay home with you because you are
Oh.
a little cray cray. So, and even like as I was like at school, like I was like reading really early. So even in kindergarten, when they'd be like reading the stories, I was like reading them and being like, wait, what about? Or like, hey, hold on a second. And so like instigating all these conversations. And so I actually, for like the first 4 years, so kindergarten to grade 2, I went to this school, and I I would be in the principal's office writing lines every day because I was always in trouble. And the line was, I will not instigate. I will not instigate. I will not instigate. It's so annoying. And so I've always been like, again, curious, and I read a lot, and I've always read a lot. So I'm always like, wait a minute, like, is that what this? I read this book and it said this thing. Like, what do you think? So I've always like been that asshole. Uh, and it got me in a lot of trouble, like a lot of trouble, like all through high school. I was constantly in the principal's office to the point where I just like stopped really going to high school unless if it was a presentation or an exam. And I started working as a brand ambassador. And as a brand ambassador, you know, that was terrifying at first because like you had these quotas. They were like, you've got to talk to 2,000 people today, or like, we've got to hand out 20,000 tickets this weekend. Like 20,000, we're at like some crap mall in the middle of nowhere. Like how do we even hit these numbers? Like I literally have to talk to every single person in this mall. Like, oh my God. And so that was really freaky. But then I started to understand, you know, things that would work because I'd be there for like 17 hours during the day. Okay, 12 hours minus tear down and set up, right? And so I got to experiment a lot, like a lot. And it was like, like some things don't work. Like if you just like hand something to someone, sometimes they just take it. Like they'll passively just like take it, but then they'll also throw it away, right?
Mm.
If you like start with humor, especially if you're a girl with girls, I don't know like all the gender stuff now, but like from my experience when I was like 15, going up to like a group of girls was terrifying, because like we all have like attitudes. We're like, no, we don't need your bullshit, right? But like going up to them with like humor, so like using some sort of humor, whatever that was, like usually it was a funny face. Like I can make faces really easily, or like I can like be really like big with my body really easily. So it was usually something like that, like, oh hey ladies, I love your outfits, like humor compliment package. And then they'd be like, what are you selling? Like, what do you do? Right? I'd be like, oh, let me tell you about like da da da. So I learned that like with a couple, like with like a guy and a girl. If I went up to the guy, like if he was my target audience and I went up to the guy, the girl would like pull him away. Like sometimes my shirts were like bounce, go wow, wow. And I'm like going up to someone's boyfriend, like, oh, hey, can I like spray you with Axe? And they're like, oh, like run away. Like, no. So, you know, like approaching the girl. I mean, like, hey, girl, you want your man to smell fresh and fine? And she'd be like, yeah, like spray him. I'd be like, okay, cool. Dude, purchase this. Right? So like starting to understand some of those dynamics when I was like younger was helpful. Okay.
Mm.
But then for like the decade after that, so like all through my 20s, everyone was like, you're so aggressive. You're so aggressive. Like that was like such a constant feedback I'd get. If I was like in boardrooms, in whatever, they'd be like, whoa, like you're super aggressive. Like in meetings with like stakeholders who are like giving me money, they'd be like, whoa, you're like really aggressive. I was like, what the hell are people talking about? Like, I'm not aggressive. Like, I can be aggressive, but like, this is not me being aggressive. Like, would you like to see me actually being aggressive? Like, you, like, we wouldn't be talking if I was being aggressive. Like, I'd smoke you. Like, what? So it's only been in the past like few years, I think I started doing face reading in 2020, maybe 2019, end of 2019, 2020. Because I was starting to notice, like, why is this, even like from my family, like everyone was giving me this feedback of like, you're too aggressive. And I was like, okay, like it's clearly I'm the common denominator here. Like not everyone else is crazy. Like I'm the person who needs to work on this. So I started doing face reading to start to understand how people intake information, process information, speak about things, you know, what their style of communication is, what my style is. The first face you read is your own. So I realized like, oh, no wonder why I come across super aggressive. I have a really straight chin. So I'm very blunt. I don't sugarcoat anything. I have extremely straight eyebrows for the most part. Sometimes this one gets a little pointy, but like straight. So I'm like straightforward. I'm just going to give you bullet points and facts. You know, I've got a big, wide like face and jaw. So like meaning that like I have the determination and I won't stop until I get exactly what I want. I have like a dimple in my chin. So I'm super playful. And like I like find joy in like the teasing and the hunt and all of that. So like I'm this relentless bulldog that's like not sugarcoating anything, that's just giving you facts and data. So of course it's going to come across aggressive. It's like, oh, okay. So now that I know that how I take in information, process information, and talk about it, now when I look at someone, I can tell like, okay, this person's going to want to know about the people, the pets, the story behind it. They're going to want like the whatever that is. It's round eyebrows. They're going to want like me to talk about not facts and data. They could care less about the facts and data. They want to know how this affects Rose. What did Agnes say? They want names. They want to know exactly like how this is like affecting that person. But I couldn't talk like that before. And I like couldn't understand why we were having like problems because this person wanted names. And I was like, I'm just giving you facts. Like, shut up with the names. Like, I don't care. And they're like, that's all I care about. So it was like me having to take a massive step back and learn all of these features that basically are like a GPS to someone's way to take information. So I'm not saying everyone needs to take face reading. If you want a super powerful skill, people should take face reading. But that's now it's like you have to be aware that like how you communicate isn't necessarily how someone else communicates. And how that other person's communicating might be super frustrating to you, but they don't know how to do it any other way. And they're not trying to piss you off. So like that was like a really big thing for me because like when people get like super into like details that I find superfluous, that I'm like, whatever, those don't even matter. Some people, those really, really matter to them. And that's where we would butt heads. And so now I know, okay, it's not about me. They're not trying to attack me. They're trying to understand this from a whole different perspective than how I would go about understanding it. So I need to be really conscious of that and like really let them work through that. One thing I don't like doing is like some conversations lead you to people just like complaining about stuff. So like I found like if you like give them an open-ended topic or whatever, some people will just like go down these super negative, super complaining things. I usually give those conversations like 2 responses, right? So I'll try and switch it. I'll literally say like, oh, you know, that's an interesting perspective. It's a little like it's coming across almost negative. Like I always try and think about the silver lining or like what you can learn from that. Did you find you learned something from this? And if they just like go right back into complaining, I kind of like just drop the conversation. I'm like, this is never going to change. I'm not even going to like go down that road. I don't really care. But for the most part, I realized like a super safe topic to start with people, to get people talking, because like everyone likes to feel smart, everyone likes to feel helpful, and everyone likes to feel like they're like contributing to something, right? Because then they can say like, oh, I had this really great conversation and like got to whatever. So like it's really easy to like get people to feel that way when you, especially professionally, right? Because like most people don't get recognized for any professional shit that they've ever done. They're just gonna like show up, hammer out some emails, go home. No one at their home wants to talk about what they do at work. No one at work wants to talk about what the other person is doing. Everyone's in their little bubble silo thing, right? So like professionally, one of the best conversation starters on LinkedIn, and this works for cold messages too. If you're just trying to like start conversations in network, if you don't have like another specific goal, it's, hey, I saw your post about whatever. You don't even have to say that. Just like, hi, name, I'm Hillary. Like, what is it's like, I value your opinion, and I'm building out my library right now. What books are you reading? Or like, what's your next book on your book list? Or like something about books. People go off. They'll either be like, oh, are you talking about fiction, nonfiction? Like, da 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 da. And they'll like answer you right away, like connect with you and answer you. Or they'll be like, oh, I just read this book and it's so good. And like, now I'm moving on to this book. And then you can ask, like, oh, cool. Like, that sounds great. If you've read it, great. Cause then you guys can like talk about the book. If you haven't read it, then you're like, oh, okay, it's on my list. Like, what are some of the key points that you got from that book? And then they're like, oh, da 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 this, oh, da 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 that. Like, it's so easy. People love it because they're like, I'm so smart. I read books. This is my book topic. Nobody wants to talk about this with me because I'm not part of a book club, right? So like, no one's ever asking people like, oh, what book are you reading? Ho ho ho! Like, no one does that. But when you do that, people open up insanely. It is like the number one. That one has a 100% rate of like response and connection. So if you're just like going out to like talk to someone on LinkedIn, I'm only talking about LinkedIn because that's the only one I use. But like, if you're just like going out to like start a conversation for conversation's sake, that's a great one. Because you can also use it at a networking event, right? Like say you're at a networking event and like it's super awkward. Or like even if you're on like a Zoom networking event and like everyone's quiet, when you go to those and they're so awkward and like the presenter hasn't like shown up yet. I go in, everyone's awkward and quiet, and I just like can't be silent in those situations. I'll like see something. So I'll be like, oh, Agnes, those are really cool headphones. Like, what are those? And you'll be like, oh, thanks. Like, I just got this. Da, da, da. Or like, oh, I love your mic setup. What is that? Someone specific. And then they start talking. And then once you guys start talking, everyone's like, oh, okay, we're comfortable here. Like, people are talking. Like, is Hillary running this event? And I'm like, no, I'm just like showing up. Like, then once the speaker comes up, you're like, oh, hey, like, how's it going? We're all here waiting. Like, nice to see you. But it's like, so like a compliment, like a genuine compliment. Like, you don't want to like be a dick. Like, actually say something that's like, oh, like Agnes, I see you have some like books back there. Like, are you reading one of those right now? Like, what's your favorite one? And you're like, oh, books on my bookshelf. Like, oh, I just moved. Like, I don't know. Most of my books are in like boxes right now. I just got my Wi-Fi. Blah. Like, people open up when you like get in. They'll talk about stuff. So you just have to like, you can't make it an interrogation. So like some people will just like have a list of questions and then they're just like keep hammering you with questions. Like you also have to like give. So when they say like, oh, this is my favorite book, this is what I'm reading. Oh, I haven't read that one yet. Or like, oh, that's definitely on my list. Like my next book, like I have like 5 in the pipeline right now, but like I'm putting it on my list. Like, is there something like great that I should like remember when I read it? And they're like, oh yeah, here's a quote. Like, but like you have to like give a little bit. You can't just like hammer them with like 20 questions because then people like are like, why are you interrogating me? Like, what the hell's going on? And it's interesting too, because that one's really good when like I had people, I would say like, hey, I'd love to, have you on to like talk about your experience in UX. And they'd be like, oh, I'm not really comfortable. I don't really know, blah, blah, blah. And so then I'd ask them like, oh, that's fine. Like, no worries. Like, they're like, I'm not really experienced. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, have you taken any courses? Like, what courses have you been taking? They're like, oh, okay, this course. And we end up having like a long ass conversation that could have been on line or whatever, but like, and at the end they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I had so much to say about this. That happens so frequently. People are like, wait, whoa, I actually do know a lot about this topic. I'm like, yeah, like, yes, you do. Right. So I think it's that like curiosity, but the hack is ask them about books that they're reading.
Books.
It's like, it's because like it's professional, right? Like no one like because like who else is asking about books? When was the last time someone asked you about the books you're reading? But like you're probably reading something, whether it's a PDF or like a podcast or like whatever, like a book on tape. You're probably actually reading something to like benefit yourself right now, right? Because like you're a professional, you're working on your career, you know, you're maybe in Oprah's book club or whatever it is, but like no one talks about that unless if you're like part of a book club, and that's usually like older ladies talking about fictional books, right? And so like it's not a topic that like people go for, but it's a topic that once you open it up, people love being helpful, they love contributing to something, and they love sounding smart. Books cover all of that. And if you've read the same book, what ends up happening is then they'll give you other books. They'll be like, oh, you read The Alchemist? Okay, maybe you'll like this one. And like what ended up happening with me one time was this guy, he kept like giving me all these books, but I'd read them all. I was like, yeah, oh, I love that book. That's a great one. Oh, I love this line from that book. And he was just like trying to like give me a new book to the point where he actually messaged me and was like, hey, can you like take a look at my portfolio? Can you take a look at this? Because like I had like matched him on so many levels that he was like, okay, wait, I like you. Who are you? You know, so like it can actually build like genuine connections with people because you either find like someone who's like totally on your level with everything. But that's the hack. That's the hack.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of very interesting things. So it seems like, you know, if you want to like improve having conversations, whether it's like in real life or even online outreach, whatever it is, it seems like the only way you can kind of feel comfortable with that, it's really through quantity. Like you do have to nurture it, like even for your dad, even though he's like a professional already, but it all comes with practice. I feel like no one is born like a pure salesman.
No.
Or like a very charming kind of personality. Like
yes,
there are people out there who can have conversations like in a very smooth way.
Yeah.
But I feel like they kind of honed that skill.
Yeah.
I feel like no one is born that way. So yeah, number one would be definitely focus on quantity when it comes to starting and even holding a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Whether it leads somewhere or not doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Just focus on the conversation itself.
Yeah.
And when we are communicating with someone, whether it's email or verbal or whatever it is, but for us mostly it would be, you know, face to face via Zoom or Google Meet. The most important thing is to communicate with them in a way that the receiver receives communication.
Yeah.
Right. So if they like stories, we can't keep giving them facts. And if they like facts, there's no point in us drawing out the perfect story for them.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
they don't receive it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely see how that will work. It's just like everything in life, right? If you want to give somebody something, it has to be something that they want or they need, or that, you know, will help them in a way. So yeah, communication seems to be a part of that.
One actual extra thing to add to that is I read a book in 2015. It was called Yes and. So this is, I was having a lot of board meetings. Like I was an executive, so I was having like tons of board meetings all the time. And I was noticing like I'd get to the meeting and everyone would be like, I'd pitch some crazy idea. And then I'll be like, no. And then nothing. I'd be like, are you shitting me? Like you can't just like pull down my idea. But then that's obviously not the correct response. You can't just like say, are you shitting me in a boardroom meeting? Yeah. So, and we were doing a lot of pitches, like we were trying to get like some money. And so there's an improv group called Second City. And there's one
Mhm.
here in Toronto. There's another one somewhere in the States. And they wrote a book called Yes and. And so it's
Okay.
like the whole principle of improvisation. So at that time, I also did like a lot of like improv. It's not a class. I was like going to some improv, and then I was like doing improv in the park with a bunch of people. So like
Okay.
it was
Like a
not like
group or
it
a
was like a
club
group.
of some sort.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
like some random ass people meeting up and doing improv in the park, like randomly. It was really random, but it was fine. It was fun. But I'd read this book, Yes and I also had like a club at school for these like kids who are artists and like wanted to be entrepreneurs, but like were artists and designers and like didn't know how to do anything. So like our first meeting, we did Yes and because at the back of the book they had all these exercises, and I got my mom in because she's like done all the courses for it. So I was like, "Mom, come in, teach us like some yes and." But the whole idea is that when you yes and something, you're not shutting down whatever that person has said. So in improvisation, it's really important because someone can be like, "Okay, you're talking about rockets and clouds," and so if I come in and I'm like, "Oh my God, did you see that launch the other day? Like it singed my hair," and you say, "No, I didn't see it. I don't know what you're talking about." It kind of kills the scene, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you said, "Yes, and I was so far away, but I could still see it going up into the sky," like whatever it is.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
and right? So like you never say no in improv, and you'll hear it. Like if you watch them, usually the next line is someone saying yes and blah 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 blah. And so it does two things. It makes you actively listen to whatever the hell that person just said. Because you have
Mhm.
to yes
Mhm.
and it. So you have to be like, "Hey, we're talking about rockets. Cool. Yes, and I was so close I could barbecue my marshmallow, whatever, on the rocket exhaust, right?" And then the other person's like, "Yes, and," but it builds. So it's
Mm,
a way to
mm,
build conversation. So what I ended up doing after I read the book, I took like one afternoon, read the whole book because I couldn't put it down. I was like, this is going to change my life, and it did. I recommend reading. But this is the gist. Like once you get this, you don't really need to read it all. But I would show up to these meetings in the boardroom, okay, and I would like I always just pretended I was leading the meeting. Like I'd always show up with like the page of my agenda, right? So like I'd
mm.
show up with enough printouts for everybody, page of my agenda, sticky notes in the middle, the the Sharpies. Like I just like bring a bunch of shit to the meeting. And then people would be like, "Wait, who's leading this meeting?" It's like the president. And I'm like, "Yeah, cool, whatever. Like here's the agenda." It's like my own points. Um, and so I'd hand them out at the beginning of the meeting, stand at the front and say, like, "I would like to remind everybody that this is a yes and environment where we build solutions." So then anytime someone in the meeting would say no or shut down an idea, I'd be like, "Oh, remember, this is a yes and environment. So do you want to reword that?" And then they'd have to like sit there and say yes to some crazy ass idea that I had and say yes and then come up with like some way of forming a solution. So it really got everybody involved. People, I'm not sure if everyone liked it, but like I didn't care because I was getting a lot more done because people weren't just like shutting things down. And because I declared it at the beginning of the meeting that I wasn't running, I could interrupt people and say, "Remember, this is a yes
Mm.
and environment where we build solutions." Okay. And then they'd be like, "Oh, right. Okay." And then have to like rethink about it. So then it takes away that bias of like, oh, you can just have a negative opinion and throw out a no and expect that to like stay. It's like, okay, but why? Why won't this work? Or like, yes, and what if we did it this way? That's fine, right? Like, but it's like it's building. So I use that a lot in my messages, my responses to people typically will start with yes and. Even if I'm thinking, hell no, what the fuck, I'll still start it with yes and what about this? Or yes and. So like a lot of my messages, my responses do start that way. And I've noticed that even in like talking with people like in real life or whatever, like that's since 2015, that's been like a huge part of my conversation toolkit because you're actively listening, you're building on someone else's thing so they feel
Mm.
again connected, you're not having to come up with something crazy yourself. You just have to like, yes, and how did that work for you? You've already said yes, so they're like, oh, okay, they like what I'm talking about. Like you're already
Mm.
like in, right? So that's, I think that is like actually the secret sauce. I think that's the secret sauce.
Oh,
Yes, and
okay.
yeah.
That's interesting. Do you feel like the secret, it kind of leans more towards saying the word yes, or is it avoiding the word no?
No, it's the building. I think it's the and is the biggest part of it.
Ah.
I think yes is just like agreeing with someone in some way. So like you're not telling them no, you're stupid, right? You're giving them that
Like
affirmation. You're
acknowledging them.
acknowledging whatever that
Mm.
crazy idea was. Yes. And the and allows you to build. And so I think it's that building, whether it's asking a new question
Mm.
or contributing your own crazy idea or like throwing something out there that's like who knows, whatever that is the key part, because you can't say no and, because then someone's like whatever, like you don't even you didn't even listen to me. Because once you say yes, then that person's like, oh, they heard me, cool. And like some conversation people like repeat the words that they say. Okay, sure, yeah, whatever, fine. You can try and do that. You'll probably need to take notes, which looks super awkward like in a real life conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're on a sales call, fine. That was a great tip. I started doing that. But like
Thank you.
if you're like in the real world, like you can't be like walking around with like your notepad unless you're trying to learn a new language or something. Like it just
Mm.
looks weird. So the yes really kind of sums all of that up. Like you just like, and then and builds on it. So I think the and is the key part, and the affirmation. It could be yeah, and oh, absolutely, and any of those like
Mm.
positive affirmational words would work. Just like
Ah,
totally and not
okay.
but, right? Because usually it's no but, right? So like people will be like,
Mm.
no, but I think. And if you say but, or if you start your sentence with but,
Mm.
you're negating anything that that person said. But is like the worst way to start a sentence or like to add on to anyone's thing. If you say but, you're kind of a butthead. Like people like don't care. They're like, you've lost them. Whereas if you can like spin it to be an affirmation and you can still say that exact same point, but it comes across differently because you're not negating what you just said. So it's kind of a big one. If you're noticing you're starting conversations and you're using but and you're using no a lot, I'd say just like switch to yes and try that, and then talk about books.
Mm.
And then if people don't even read books, they're like, oh, but I saw that movie. And you're like, yeah, that was so great. Like,
Mm.
like it's
Mm.
super.
Mm.
Those are the two hacks, I think. If someone's like afraid of starting conversations, quantity over quality, just get out there. If no one's talking on the Zoom call, be the person to talk on the Zoom call. And like just pick anybody on the Zoom call, be like, oh, is that your cat in the background? Oh, I love your screensaver. Oh, like your hair is so nice. Like what like who cares? Anything. Oh, I love your mic setup. Oh, like look at your bookshelf. There's so many books. Like, oh my god. Like any of those things. And then people are like,
Mm.
oh, me? I love your watch. Like like anything.
Mm.
Usually, like if
Mm.
you try and make it not necessarily, because now about all the sexual harassment stuff, try and not make it about like a physical feature, but more like an inanimate object. So
Mm.
like their headphones, their
Their
mic
their
setup, their book,
background
their
and all of that.
background. Yeah. That's
Okay.
that's probably safer.
Mm. 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 Okay. Okay. Ah, I've learned so much from today's call. Well, I do have one last final question.
Okay. Hit me.
For someone who wants to grow their community or grow their following, whatever it is, through content creation, um, like from your experience, do you feel like most of your not right now, right? When you just started out, do you feel like it's more from you actively reaching out to people that they were to join your community, or is it kind of banking on quantity of content the style of content. Just keep posting and posting and posting. Eventually it will, bring in the people or stuff like that. Because there are always two types of um marketing in a sense. You have the
Mm-hmm.
attraction kind where you
Mm-hmm.
post content and you attract people to you. And then the other kind is where you push the content out to people and then they're like, oh my God, thank you, yes. And then they will join you. And so
Yeah.
there's really two types. But majority of the people only know about the first type.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
I think the first only works once you've done the second.
Ah.
So and this is some of the conversations I was having with like the CEOs of these agencies, right? They're like, oh, I asked them, I was like, well, how do you get your new clients? And they're like, oh, it's just, referrals. I was like, what? So you do no outreach? Like the only outreach you're doing is to like people who are technically your competitors? And they're like, yeah. That's really freaking strange. What? What? So I think you have to be proactive. Like you have to be going out and reaching out to people. And then that's why I picked a niche. That's why it ended up being user experience, because on a platform like LinkedIn, you can literally search for people's job titles. So like if you only want restaurant tours or like people who own restaurants or whatever, I don't know the title, but you can search that title. If you only want to be speaking to founders, you can search that title, right? So like that's part of the reason too why I picked LinkedIn, because it can get so specific, and then you get like a list of like 200 people who have that title. Then you can say like, oh, hey, what's your favorite UX principle? Or like, oh, hey, like whatever. Like I have this, and then once they respond to you and like actually connect with you, then you're in their DMs, just slide right in there and say like, oh, I have this club, like I'm getting this thing together so we can all learn from each other. Like here's the link to join. And they're like, okay, cool. Or like, oh, tell me more, or whatever, but like if you're not actively looking for them, especially nowadays, how the hell are they going to find you? Like even think about it, like on your LinkedIn or on your Instagram, if you're not sitting there endlessly scrolling, mind you, I did this on Twitter. I spent like 2 hours on Twitter the other day on my phone. I deleted it from my phone. I was like, that's never happening again. That's crazy. Such a waste of time. But like it was fun, but like, oh my God, no, I don't have time for that. So I got rid of it. But like if you're not spending hours, you're not seeing a lot of posts. Like you just like go on LinkedIn for like a second, you see like maybe 3 posts, right? Or like if you're on Instagram and you're just like scrolling for a bit, just get caught up in the reels for like a hot second, and then you like watch like 5 of them, you're like, okay, I'm done, I'm good, bye. And then you end up seeing that same content from those same people. Like if you go again, like it's like you're not like actually getting all the content. It's even on YouTube. I'll like hit that new to me button all the time and I still see the same old shit. I'm like, I'm getting like 2%, not even 2%. I'm getting like 0.02% of YouTube on my phone right now. Like how, what? So like if you're not going after the people, which is why I loved your approach on Instagram, just like straight up DMing them, like don't beat around the bush, like DM them. I think if you're not doing that, then there's no way you're going to build a community, because people just literally won't know about you. And it's going to be so hard to once, and it goes hand in hand, because like if you're doing that and you're outreaching, you have to have something to like draw their attention, to like give them. You can't just be like, hey, I'm doing this thing, and they're like, okay, where? And you have nothing. So like you do have to be creating content in some way, if that's videos, if that's a post, if that's an article, a newsletter, whatever that is. There has to be something that once you've outreached to them, they can like go to, right? And then once you have enough people, then it's that content generation side that allows you to like be more engaged with that group, whether it's polls or like an event, right? Like events on YouTube are great, or LinkedIn live streams are great. Like those kinds of things, like then you'll actually have people who will just like pop on and like see like, oh, she's doing an event now, and they'll just like join, but if you're not doing outreach, you're really screaming into the void. Like there's gonna be like no chance.
Okay.
And that's why like you have to pick platforms that allow you to do outreach. Like Twitter, You can send
Mm.
5 DMs and then they mark you as spam. 5. That's nothing. The hell is 5 messages? Like, that's literally nothing. Instagram, you were saying it's like 30 or 35, maybe
Oh
50.
yeah, around there. Yeah.
Yeah. And LinkedIn, like there's like different tricks, right? Like if you have an event, you can message all those people in your event and they're not going to block you from doing that, even if you don't know them, because you're attending the same event. And now there are some marketers who are starting to like take that. I block them and I mark them as spam.
Okay.
But there are some marketers who will just join events just to grab the list of the event because of that loophole where you can message people. So like you have to be careful with that one. That's why I only message people in an event that I'm hosting, because they obviously know that I'm hosting the event. So like if they get a message from me, then they're like, oh, cool. And it's usually the event link so they don't like miss it. I'm like, here's the event link. I'll send them all a message, because then that increases the amount of people that actually show up, because like they need reminders. They need to feel like personal, right? Like email blasts are great. They're fine. But like what's the actual click-through rate? Like what do people actually get from emails? Like it's kind of hard like to get a bunch of people to do something from emails. Like it's these DMs and these personal messages. I was talking to someone about this 2 days ago. Those get like an insane amount more of interactions than just like say I just like put a link. So like I put out the poll, hey, do you need help? Say under the poll I'd put a link to my assessment call. I think maybe one person out of the 108 people would have clicked it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But because I took 40 minutes and a little bit of like carpal tunnel and just like messaged every single person, you know, and you like click like open a new link, like open a new tab, right? So that you keep your list, or else it gets all fucked up. So like open a new tab, you get a new tab on LinkedIn, and then you message them that way. I just plowed through the 88. Literally my calendar's insane. It's insane. It's because I messaged each one of them individually. Right? So it's like you have to do the outreach, and even once you have the crowd, you still have to do the outreach. And like that's cool.
Okay.
You can't just rely on like a newsletter or like rely on something like that goes out to everybody. That's great. It's great to like build up your reputation, do all those things, but like at the end of the day, it comes down to individual conversations with people that are actually going to like drive things forward, which is why I think communication is so important, which is why I coach it, which is why like I'm like communication. It's key, because it really is. And yeah, there's like programs that you can like get where it like looks like you're not really like sending it out to a mass amount of people, but those cost a lot of money. And like if you're bootstrapping it or flip flopping it like me, like it's unaffordable, right? So like you need to find ways that work. And like if that's spending 40 minutes every 2 days to send out a blast, then you just have to pick what you're blasting out and like what messages, like then that's where your funnels really come into play, right? So that's where your funnel thinking has been like so helpful for me, because before I was just sending out random messages like, oh hey, what books you like, oh hey, you want to chat, oh hey, blah 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 blah, and everyone did, which was great, but there was no like, and then what, whereas now it's like, oh, I know exactly what to do. So it's like if you have a strategic process, if your strategy is just like, I just want to get better conversation, fine, that's totally fine. That's one thing. But if you're like, okay, I want to make money from these conversations, then you have to think like with these funnels, right? So, and like come up with conversation flows, and like I keep track of them all. So like I have like all my conversation flows, all like, especially for the first like 80 or so, I'll like copy and paste like what that person has said back, like into my flow, so I can see. So then I end up having like 5 to 12 variations that I can copy and paste out to people depending on what they're saying, what they're responding back. Because like you don't need to have a new response for everybody, especially if you're starting the conversation the same way. We're human. A lot of the same shit happens, right? So like within the first like 12 to 80 conversations you have, you're going to see okay, these are the typical responses. And then you can start building out dialogue, right? Which is the conversation designer in me that like actually leads to whatever, like leads
Mm,
to an interview, leads to a coffee, leads to whatever. But like you can see it building out. So if you can keep track of it and then you're not like restarting from scratch every single time, that's really helpful. And you're just like modifying a few things. It allows you to be a lot faster, which is that quantity thing. You want to get out a lot of conversations. You're not just like having one conversation with some random person. You're having like 150, you know? So.
All right. I just really want to laugh right now.
About what?
The flip flopping. I've been holding it in. I'm like, it would be rude of me to just.
That's why I always say that. Because everyone's like, I'm bootstrapping. I'm like, I don't have straps. I'm flip flopping. Like, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. That is so accurate. Like,
Right? Yeah.
we ain't got money for boots.
Boots.
What boots? With straps? What?
Whoa.
I got flip flops. Oh,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
god. Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, I think for today's session, well, we have gone on for quite some time, but I think it was extremely valuable, when
Nice.
it comes to building a community and
Mhm.
just having conversations. I feel like the only thing that we have to do, other than creating content, you kind of have to just be passionate about it, create the content as you learn,
Yep.
right? And just have conversations with people, whether or not it leads to money. I feel like that's kind of the second priority.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm coming from an angle that, you know, the people that are listening, or whether we are in a position where money, it's not like we don't need it, but we are not at the stage where like I'm gonna rob a bank tomorrow
Yeah.
if this doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean, if you've listened to any of those hacker shows, the most effective way to rob the banks are to have good conversations with people.
Okay.
They call it social engineering. And
Okay.
it's like
So we
how
have a new CTA for today's episode, guys. If you want to rob a bank, book your communication coach with Hillary right now. Right? She has a package in 13 sessions, just 13 sessions. You'll be able to rob the nearest bank to your house, and then you're set for life. So I think that was a good CTA to end off the show for today. What? Girl, as a
Yeah.
coach, you give out the weirdest advice. You say the weirdest things that, I mean, yeah, it is a good CTA, I guess.
Yeah, no,
Wanna
I'm a
rob a
weird one.
bank?
I'm kooky, that's for sure. That's fine though. That's good. Yeah, social engineering. It's the whole thing. It's what we're talking about. Is how to start conversations with random strangers and get them to trust you
Mhm.
immediately.
Yeah.
I'm excellent
13
at that.
sessions. Just 13 sessions. $2,000, $3,000. Come on. Definitely a good ROI for that.
Nice. Well, I hope you have a good night, Agnes, and see you in 2 weeks for another awesome long ass conversation about something.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we don't pre-plan our sessions. I feel
Yeah.
like we just go with it. Like for today, the topic just kind of came up from, me asking you how was your week. And then I realized that okay, so you leveraged your network, your audience, right? And that's something that I'm actively trying to build. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how the entire episode came about. But
That's true.
I had a ton of fun
Me
this
too.
week.
Me
A
too.
ton of laughters, a ton of flip flops and bank robberies. So yeah, I look forward to the next session. Thank you for your time, Hilary.
Thanks, Agnes. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.